We live in a world today where we use AI for so many things, but perhaps the most common and everyday application is to simply use it as a more intelligent search engine. We go to AIs and ask them questions, we ask them for help, but nobody ever asks, how often do those AIs agree with each other? Today we built an AI consensus dashboard using Nimble and Claude in order to see for ourselves. Across 100 questions, we now have a dashboard that shows us that AIs agree 50% of the time, disagree 44% of the time, and really strongly disagree 6% of the time. We asked 100 questions across e-commerce, finance, science, tech, and society, and we have a whole list of questions here, and we can see exactly where they agree and disagree. We can sort for strong, moderate, or split disagreement. And we did all of this with Nimble. Another thing that we can do is ask our own question. So let's see how this works. And once we ask our own question, we'll look into how we built this behind the scenes. So today we're going to ask, is running a marathon more or less impressive than powerlifting 500 pounds in a squat? Right now, we're sending that question to all three AIs. We're sending it to ChatGPT, we're sending it to Perplexity, and we're sending it to Gemini. Once they answer, the results will be analyzed, and we'll see whether or not they agree or disagree on this question. All right, we've got our responses in, it's been analyzed, and now we can see that they actually disagree. ChatGPT says both are equally impressive, Perplexity thinks the marathon is more impressive, and Gemini thinks the squat is rarer. Now let's see how it works. So, our stack uses Nimble for fetching the information from each one of these AI platforms, especially using our web search agents. We didn't have to build a thing. We orchestrated the fetch using the Nimble Python SDK and distributed with the thread pool executor. We analyzed using Claude Haiku. The dashboard is built with Streamlit, and Python runs it all. So our first stage was to create the questions. I had Claude come up with 5 categories: tech and AI, e-commerce, finance, science, and society, and distribute 100 questions across these different categories. We also created a format into our prompt so it would be easy to compare the results from the different AIs, where we have a verdict, that's 1 or 2 words, we have a reason, which is 1 sentence, and this allows us to compare the results really easily. In our second stage, we did a test where we sent just 1 question to each one of the models, the same question, of course. ChatGPT and Perplexity were perfect. Gemini ignored our format request and gave us back very long answers. We tried to work with this, but Gemini is actually very, very insistent on providing full answers. But this was not a problem. We knew we could save that full answer and then later analyze it. In stage 3, we built a Python script that used thread pool executors across 9 workers to send all of the requests that we had. It was 300 calls in total, 100 to each AI. You can see the format for the responses and how we stored them locally here. This took about 20-30 minutes. In stage 4, we analyzed all of the results that we got in 1 Haiku pass. We used our Anthropic API, sent the request. It was super fast, super cheap to analyze all of the data, and we were able to get really, really good sentiment analysis using Haiku. In stage 5, we built the dashboard to display the results of the sentiment that we had received across the questions. The initial version was good, but we ended up improving it a little bit to make it more readable. And then in the final results, we saw that there was a very interesting distribution of answers, and especially the split answers were really, really interesting to see. If we go back here, we have the question that we asked. And if we sort for split, we can see an example where a question about GitHub Copilot or Cursor, which is the better AI coding assistant. ChatGPT said GitHub Copilot, Perplexity thinks Cursor is better, and Gemini thinks Cursor is better for VS Code users specifically. Another interesting split is across iPhone 17 or Samsung Galaxy S26, where ChatGPT said it depends on the ecosystem, Perplexity said the Galaxy S26, and Gemini said the iPhone 17. I hope this demonstration has kind of demonstrated how effective Nimble is at collecting information from these different AIs, and why maybe working with more than one AI and building a kind of system like this for analyzing the results can actually pay dividends where they disagree, because they disagree at least as often as they agree. Thanks.